through some interesting stuff with this coronavirus. But our talk today is going to be just a chat with some cool guys who I absolutely adore. And this will be a lot of fun because they're both really funny and have great personalities on top of that. And they both have great stories as to where they come from, what they've been through recently, and how they've gotten to where they are today. What you can do is tell us that you're here. Send us a message in the comments. Let us know where you are. Ask us questions, and we will get to them. And we'll get to them as we go through this, in whatever order, as much as we can. And we love it for it to be interactive. So let's start with Howard. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into our just chatting away, and then we'll move over to Josh, and let's just have fun with this.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, I'm really funny and I have a great personality. Oh, wait, this isn't The Bachelor. Damn it.
You're married.
She's probably watching.
Elizabeth, hey, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so you tease this by saying, what happens when an athlete and a health coach get together? So I guess I'm the health coach. Thanks a lot. Always.
Hi, Patricia. Thanks for coming in from Oregon.
Yeah. Hey, Patty.
Well, I think technically we're both of those things.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. I know, but I was leading.
Yeah.
I gotta focus on something. It's like I could list a whole bunch of stuff about both of you, but I have to keep it concise.
I know, it's branding. Branding's important. So my branding is I'm trying to look more and more like Walter White every day, so people don't mess with me as we approach the apocalypse. As you mentioned, I'm in North Carolina. We're on day 13 of quarantine because we returned to the United States on Friday 2 weeks ago. And so it turns out the quarantine from travel is exactly the same as everybody else. So I don't know what the difference is. Like on day 14, we're not going to do anything different because everybody else is in lockdown. I'm just recovering from like jet lag and from what was supposed to be a really relaxing family vacation for 3 weeks in South Africa, which turned into 4 weeks of basically lockdown next to these beautiful mountains and hiking spots that we couldn't go to. So I know people who have not left their apartment in Manhattan for 2 months. So like boo-hoo for me, like walking around in beautiful nature trails. But it was kind of scary because we spent a month living on a vacation budget. Right. So you could sort of see the numbers spinning down in the bank account. So I've got this podcast called Plant Yourself, and out of sheer boredom and terror and impotence and a desire to do something, I turned it into a daily while I was there. So I talked every day for about 15 minutes to 30 minutes about whatever was on my mind. And now I'm back, and I've sort of been ramping that down and ramping back up the normal podcast. And like, I feel like those of us in the plant-based community, the vegan community, and we've turned our health around through plant-based living communities have a lot to offer the rest of the world.
No,
because we've been through stuff. Like we've dealt with scientific controversies playing out on Facebook. We've made a big change in our lives, that some of us were forced to make, and some of us just made the leap. And we've all dealt with all this stuff, like basically through the lens of pragmatism. Like, is this working for me? And I think a lot of people are coming late to the party who haven't had those experiences. And I think we have in our community, we have a huge resource that we can provide to others to kind of help them understand how to navigate this flux. So I think I'll stop there.
yeah,
Okay.
this is so I'm Josh. I'm from South Louisiana. I'm a very unlikely vegan. I was born and raised down on the bayou in South Louisiana. Played football, hunted deer, fished every weekend during speckled trout season, and did all of the things that a good Louisiana son of Louisiana would do, of sportsman's paradise. But just like many of the other people in my family and the patriarch of my family, I got morbidly obese by the time I was in my early 30s. I was over 420 pounds. And while I was really good at doing all the things that made me specifically Louisianan, like hunting and fishing and drinking a lot and being able to cook with a fry daddy real good, and like being able to do all of those things made me feel good about myself in one way. And in another way, I at the time was just thinking about the cosmetics of being fat. I didn't really understand all of the implications of chronic disease. And I thought, I didn't really understand that fully. And then, so for the umpteenth time in my life, I tried to lose weight in 2011 and tried running for the first time, which brought me to reading this book called Born to Run, where I learned about Scott Jurek. And after having already lost about 100 pounds or so, doing it my old way, low carb, meat, I was starting to hit a wall like I had always done before. But the thing that was different this time was I had started wanting to be a better runner before, like as I was starting to hit the normal plateau in my life, the same thing that had always happened with weight loss. And in that moment is when Scott Jurek was introduced to me through the book Born to Run. That it was the crack. That's what brought me to go down that rabbit hole a little more, brought me to Forks Over Knives and Rich Roll and the book, The China Study and Whole and Howard Jacobson, and learning about all of this stuff, and I just became really thirsty for it. And once it became evident that the food that was making me so fat was the same food that had killed my grandmother, that was making my life miserable and my grandfather's life miserable. In that moment in my life, as I was starting to try to lose weight, I'd seen so much death in my life. And so I had a new reason to make this food an enemy to me. Besides the fact that it was doing something wrong to me, this food was hurting all these people that I love. And so I was able to encapsulate that and just sort of spin that around inside my brain and make it really permanent in my life. And Howie's been a person to help me point out, how important mindset is, and how like I've sort of just accidentally done this in my life. But he's been able to tease out like, oh, look how important the mindset component, the way you think about the things that you're doing, the way you create behaviors. And that's how, plants, running, behavior change, the way I think about all of those things have helped me lose, say, 230 pounds since 2010, 2011. And to many in this country, like they wish they could do that very same thing. And I understand that wish deeply, because I've done that same wish. I've stood in front of the mirror, like imagining in my mind that I could just cut it all off with a steak knife or something, that I could just rip it. Like, what if my belly was just Velcro and I could just rip it off? What would I look like? And now I know what I look like. I never thought it would be possible, Lost everyone. Somebody comment, am I still here? Anyway.
I was just giving you some of your own time, Josh. Oh. Right? You and your picture.
With all of the pains and it just all disappeared. I'm like, what's happening? Because in Zoom, and like I put it on the one that never shows myself my face.
That was the rapture, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put up the picture that I took of you from Triangle Veg Fest last year,
Got
so people could see who, if they don't know you or some of your past, they can see what
right.
you did look like
Yeah.
and what you look like
Well,
now.
ultimately, like I've lost 230 pounds, and in doing that, the way to permanentize that in my life, to me, has been to help other people try to achieve similar results. And Howie has been integral in helping me actually manifest that you know that part of my life, to actually be able to help people besides just in the Facebook comments or who I just randomly bump into. How do I systematically create a thing that we can put out into the world, or multiple things that we can put out into the world to actually help people get traction based on what I've learned? And I want to scream from the rooftops, but not many people can hear you up there. A lot of people can hear you on the internet, and Howie can help me manipulate that, rooftop. And that's how me and Howie kind of fit together. I love him to death, like a brother. I'm glad he's back from his ordeal. I missed him a lot.
That's a good segue, since some people who are on here have no clue what you went through, Howie. How about we talk about, your experience being repatriated from another country?
Well, it was a very Keystone Cops experience. Like what I went through was much easier than what a lot of people have gone through not being repatriated. So like it's not some sort of harrowing tale that someone's gonna option the movie rights of. But like for like 2 weeks, the U.S. government, I signed up. I like to fly under the radar. I don't want anyone knowing like where I am or what my business is. But like after we landed in South Africa and things started getting really weird, I did sign up with the State Department for their like notifications, just to like, who knows. And so then my sister called one day and said, by the State Department just issued some sort of like code red or level 4 or something. They want all Americans home because they're going to close the borders. And like, damn, we just got here. But at the same time, we were starting to get like, this thing was canceled. This thing, like it looked like the trip was collapsing. So it's like, well, I guess, we've been here a week. We spent like all of our vacation money for the next 5 years on this trip, but I guess we got to come home. So we contacted our airline, South African Airways, and said, well, we should get home on the next flight. And they said, well, the next flight is on like Wednesday. This was a Friday. And so, okay, well, there's no change fees, right? Yeah. Okay. So we changed from like, another week, 2 weeks to like 4 or 5 days. Then we find out an hour later that the airline is gone. Like they no longer exist. And like, Josh, you know business, like there's something called like bankruptcy that doesn't mean you're dead. It just means like you've like reorganized things and you put things up like, oh, well, they're just in bankruptcy. Like, no, they're liquidated. They're gone. So, guess there's no more South African Airways. So then I freak out and I go on Orbitz and we book flights for like 2 days from then on Turkish Airlines, going to land in Istanbul and then go back to the States. And then my wife was like, what if we get stuck in Istanbul? Like, you go to like the Turkish Airways Twitter feed and it's all in Turkish. Like, I don't understand a word. I don't know the city. It's it's sort of a right-wing Islamist dictatorship. Probably not the best place to get stuck if the U.S. closes the border. So like we ditched that idea, and then like, well, I guess we'll stay. Then we found out that KLM was flying really expensive flights. We booked those, and then they canceled. So we were about to leave for the airport, and I got a text that flight had been canceled, and so now we're South Africa, everything's shut down. Like people aren't supposed to. Like we have lockdowns here in South Africa. People weren't allowed to walk their dogs. They weren't allowed to go jogging. It was like, you stay in the house.
Wow.
And the two things that they said only essentials, services, and products can be sold. So like this area where we were had this, it was like a national park sort of thing. There was like a little store. The stores you have outside of the national park, like they sell cans of beans and laundry soap and dish detergent and firewood and beef jerky. Like that was the store we were getting all our stuff from. And they had to block the area where they sold things like hats and scarves and mugs that said "Best Mom Ever." Like that, they weren't allowed to sell those anymore. So we're we're living in that, and just like, okay, well, we're here. I was in there shopping one day and I coughed, and it was like the sound was like in the movie where you hear like somebody ratchet the barrel of a rifle or something. Like everybody turned around, like they're they're gonna hit the floor, like their lives were in danger. So I kind of, and someone came and says, "Are you the American?" I'm like, "I'm out of here." So that's where we were just sort of hanging out until we got this email from the State Department saying they finally chartered a flight for us. And it was going to be in 2 days' time, and we were going to leave from a trade port 5 minutes away from the airport in Durban, and then make it back to then go to Cape Town, pick up a bunch of other Americans, then fly to Lomé, Togo, which I had to look up on a map because I'm an American and I don't know where countries are, but it's in the sort of West Africa, just sort of like the top of the armpit.
Yeah.
And then to Dulles, and from there, like, you're on your own, buddy. Good luck getting home. And so, the funny thing about the trip was, while we were in South Africa, they were observing and enforcing social distancing like crazy, like to a totally obsessive compulsive thing. Like there was a giant waiting room and they put 4 chairs in it. And you had to, everyone stood outside, and then you were in line in one of those 4 chairs. And then the person got up, and then you went and sat on the chair that they had just been sitting in, the plastic chair.
The risk is so much higher for them, for their population in general, I would imagine,
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the risk was certainly higher. And, but the Americans also, like what they had for us, the American embassy, the State Department had brought in masks, gloves, and Krispy Kreme donuts. Like the 3 essentials for a pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But so they were observing and enforcing this exquisite social distancing. Like, here's the X. Now you go here. Now you go here. Put this on. Hand sanitize here, and then we get on the bus and they take us to the plane where everyone's sitting on everybody's laps. Like they filled the plane. So then we had this ride home in which people are coughing and sneezing. And so that's why I assume I'm infected. So I just, I've been trying to avoid people and places. We got home at 4 a.m. on Friday, rented a minivan, and drove back to the house, and I've been here ever since.
Now, Howie's been talking about this for months, and like most people, like I was dismissive, like, yeah, okay, all right. But I mean, I pay attention because it's Howie and it made sense. And so the whole time we were doing a New Orleans retreat, like the whole week, in the first week of March. And we were washing our hands and open doors with elbows. And it was almost like a joke. We were laughing. One of our mutual friends was there, and, she was the hand wash Nazi. And it was fun, we were just kind of joshing around about it. It wasn't really that big of a deal. And then that followed, like we wrapped up on that Sunday. Well, that Tuesday, I had lunch with a friend who was coughing. And then that Sunday, that friend calls me and says, "Man, I'm so sorry I wouldn't have had lunch with you guys, but I've been tested positive for coronavirus and I'm in ICU." And so right off the bat, it got really serious for me. Like I didn't have the luxury of like kind of going, "Oh, maybe it's no, this is someone like I know," and it was like a thing. And that really shaped how I've been trying to live lately. That, I mean, with this whole thing, I mean, that matters because I could live through this probably without a scratch, and I could also live through that without a scratch and harm like hundreds of people, if I'm not careful, by doing exactly the thing I did on that lunch date that day. That if we're being real about it, if Howie would have been in charge of my movement, I wouldn't have went to the lunch date that day, right? So, yeah. And I could have very easily, because I could have very easily infected 15 people that day. It's like all these scenarios started playing out in my head. Like, no, let's be pragmatic and let's be objective and let's be better safe than sorry in my movements and my actions during this thing, regardless of how. And the other thing that being vegan really has prepared me for is like walking around in a place where most people don't think where a good chunk of people don't think it's a big deal. Walking around that place with a face mask on, that's, you stick out like a sore thumb. Well, I'm kind of already used to that because I'm a vegan here and I'm pretty open about it. I'm pretty vocal about it. So I'm used to standing alone and standing out. So in a weird way, what I've been doing to lose the weight and get healthy and become a runner and all those things have also helped me feel okay with walking around with a mask on or opening the door with my elbow.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is decision making. And for some reason, the book that I chose to read on the plane to South Africa was called Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke, who's a professional poker player. Yeah. And like, if you're a poker player, you don't have the luxury of making lots of bad decisions if you want to be competitive. And you have to learn how to make decisions in case of uncertainty, because you don't know what the cards are that anybody else has. You don't know what the cards are on the table in the flip, right? So like right now, everyone's like, well, should Colorado have opened up when it, should they be opening now? And what about Tennessee and Kentucky? And like, you can say, well, Sweden, like there's so much we don't know that it's very easy to point to someone and say, well, you didn't take this seriously enough. The problem with you was you didn't look at this data. And so, we don't know what's going to happen. Even when I was first saying this looks like the big one, I could have been wrong. It could have been, there have been others that looked like it before. And so the fact that like you're impressed that I saw it coming, it could just be like, I rolled a 12 or something.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I think what helps us as people who have transitioned to vegan, plant-based, whole food, plant-based, is that we get to make decisions based on not having to be sure about the outcome, but just saying like, if I reduce, like, what does the preponderance of evidence say, and what's the cost of me being wrong? Like, oh no, what if I stop causing the deaths of animals that are basically, as you've posted so eloquently on Facebook and Instagram, in U.S. wet markets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right, like when we make a bet, like everyone who has gone plant-based, we don't necessarily know like, oh, am I going to get healthier? Am I going to lose weight? But we can look at evidence and say, well, what happens if I'm wrong, and is that acceptable? And so for this is what's called a black swan event, like something that most people's models can't take into account. Like I think about the stock market, right? So the stock market is like the wisdom of crowds. Everything is priced exactly the way it is because millions and millions of people, some of whom are extremely smart, have created models of what this is going to be worth tomorrow, what General Electric stock is going to be worth tomorrow, what Amazon's going to be worth, what Walmart's going to be worth, what the bond market is going to be worth. And then a virus comes and the thing loses like 30% of its value overnight. And you go, so none of those smart people had a pandemic in their model. And the answer is, if they couldn't have a pandemic in their model, because they would have been underperforming for so long that no one would have trusted them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So systematically, culturally, our society is not capable of dealing with, sort of unlikely events. But as individuals, we have that privilege sometimes of saying, I'm going to live my life as if crazy stuff could happen, as if a wet market in Nebraska could be just as lethal, right? When we saw with H1N1, when we saw with the Spanish flu, which probably came from farms, right? Like as vegans, as people who have gone through the process of going around in circles fast enough to get some escape velocity from this culture, I think we're in a really good position to model that kind of thinking, even if we're wrong sometimes. And welcome back, Helene.
Yeah, I know. I switched rooms. That my laptop is not functioning well today, and I'm on my iMac now. So yeah, so I could listen. I listened on Facebook. I was so I could hear what was going on, and when I would just get locked up, and you guys would just keep going without me. But you were doing great, which I said, just keep going. I mean, the value is with you too. So yeah. Oh, I was looking through. We might have a question. Here we go. Hi, everybody who's here, because we've been talking. Are you familiar with any of the online food delivery services that are vegan or plant-based? What are your thoughts on them for people who are busy? I use Instacart all the time. So we just had a delivery today. Instacart and Whole Foods delivery. I cook, so I don't need someone to make my food for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have friends that get like Misfits Market and Produce Box and Hungry Harvest. And I signed up for a CSA locally through Hilltop Farms. So I know that there are people. I've had the talk with like Ellen Jaffe Jones on this because she cooks and she's a health coach too. So maybe we'll throw this one at Howie. There are people home right now who've never really cooked. Ever.
Well, there's people at home right now who've never baked or, causing runs on yeast. There's people who've never macrameed or
true. Coloring, a lot of coloring going on.
Yeah, I mean, look, I live. Josh knows where I live, way out in the country. The only organization that services my neighborhood reliably are the Jehovah's Witnesses. So, and they haven't been around lately. So I don't know anything about the delivery services, but I would say, Josh is the king of convincing people they can cook if they can use a pair of scissors and a can opener.
Yeah. And her thing, to be honest, it wasn't cook. It's just she's too busy, is what she says. And my immediate knee jerk to that is, what do you eat now, right? Like, so there's something. So my point with asking that question is, what do you eat now, is because fill that space with a different way, with a different protocol, with a different method. And so, I eat fast food. Well, what is it? Do you eat at where? What fast food? Is there another one? Is there a Taco Bell? Can you go to a Wendy's and get a potato? Can you, like, the thing isn't service. You're not missing a service that you don't know about yet. What you're missing is that idea of it's all around me already. And that's what's important. That people sometimes, it doesn't always have to be in vegan branded packaging or from, some neat new meal delivery service. A lot of times it's about putting a baked potato in the microwave for 4 minutes. You don't need any culinary skill to do that. And then putting some salsa on top, right? And boom, you're eating a healthy meal and you're not a cook. So we can do both, right? We can do both. Or you're eating a healthy meal and you're busy because you put one in the microwave and you ate it, and then you put another one in the microwave and you went to take your shower. And when you got out, you took that one to work with you and you ate it on the way to work, or whatever the case is. However, there's a million different ways to make it shake. You don't really need a food delivery service per se, although there will be tons of options depending on your means and your location and stuff. But I would argue that that's not what's most important to a busy person. What's most important to a busy person is alerting yourself to the opportunities that are already around you. Yes, exactly. Okay.
Let me say, put it up there. Cook. I'm saying if you know you have a super crazy week and you know you want normal balanced meals, that's fair. I mean, you could cook those normal balanced meals in that super crazy week. There are a lot of people who take a Sunday and do meal prep.
I think we accidentally put a lot of baggage on our meals, because we put that qualification, a normal balanced meal, which I got it. I get you. It's supposed to have all of these things, but I'm telling you, and McDougal will preach the same. There's nothing wrong with you making a meal out of 2 or 3 potatoes. There's nothing it's good. So during a crazy week, use that week to have mono meals and fast or eat, different things. It doesn't have to get complicated is all my point is.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my go-tos this week is 7-hour-old oatmeal. Right, like it's delicious for breakfast, but then like half of the pot is sitting there, and it's like 2 in the afternoon. And it's like, do I want to cook something now, or do I just want to like chop a banana in that oatmeal and sort of pity eat?
Well, right. I can tell you, I know Chef AJ is one of our speakers in 2015, and perfect. Thank you for the alternate thought process. That's excellent. From Sarah. Chef AJ was one of our speakers, and I said, I'll stop at the store, stop to Trader Joe's to pick up food for her. And she literally picked up like jars of salsa and potatoes, and then went to the house where she was staying in and put like 4 potatoes in the microwave and put those on a plate and put them with the salsa. And that's what she ate. And if you know Chef AJ's story, she's lost a lot of weight as well. She has kept it off, and she does a whole bunch of stuff. There's also vegmealdelivery.com, which is brand new. And that was something that's done by my friend Jason Stram. He created that. So if you want meals delivered, you can go onto his site and you can search by location, and it'll come up with all the meal deliveries that you have in your location on his site. And that's relatively new. That's a baby site. It's not even a month old. And I know he's adding veg delivery to it. So you can find out where in your area you can actually get meals that are vegan delivered into your location. So Jason's pretty awesome. He also does vegevents.com. So when we do for live events, in-person events, you can actually find out when and where they are across the world when those start happening again. So so there's lots of options out there. So
and I want to make a plug for like things aren't going to go back to normal, or if they do, that's a damn shame. Yeah. Right, because we've seen that we're living in an unsustainable society. Vegans have known this for a long time, and we can't keep killing billions of animals a year and destroying the environment. And everyone else is like, la, la, la. And now all of a sudden, the chickens are literally coming home to roost, as are the pangolins and the bats. And we realize we have a really effed up food system. And the thing that's going to solve it is not converting all of our livestock feed fields to monocultures that are going to get turned into industrial food like corn, wheat, soy, and rice, but becoming communally resilient. And so I really want to encourage everyone, start growing something, right? If you want to eat what you grow, you could do that with sprouts in 3 days. You could have microgreens in 7 days. You could have herbs that you add to your food on the windowsill in 21 days. Or by the end of this summer, you could have a garden. And I really want, like, if there's one thing that we can start doing differently to get out of, to change the dynamic, so that it's not just, for us, if the people who, people like me who are not food insecure, even as my business gets very confusing and revenue sources dry up, like, I'm privileged. I don't worry about not eating in the next 6 months. But for the people who do, like, the thing we can do is start growing things locally, organically, and veganically. Because if we grow food using animal manure and bone meal and all that, we're still throwing pathogens into our soil. And so, like, the one thing I really want people to start doing, and you start wherever you are in the curve, even if it's back to kindergarten where you had a bean seed and you put it in a Dixie cup with some dirt, like, start doing that.
I think we're all reading.
Yeah.
Patricia threw us all into, like, reading. She's responding to Sue, I think, about the meatpacking plant shutting down.
Miss Sue Boyles, no, you're not the only one.
And that's what's weird is I saw, as I go through everything, doing the social media that I do every day and kind of obsessed with, that there's a potential food shortage across the world, which confuses me completely, because the amount of food that we throw out in this country is probably enough to feed the world 10 times over. The grain and the soy and the corn that we feed the animals in this country is enough to make it so there is no hunger in the world. So how is it possible that we could have a food shortage now? And still, I mean, and you think you go even further, kind of blow your mind, that we could be feeding the animals to feed people, but we won't take the food we feed the animals to feed people.
Right. Well, there's a food shortage for people who don't have the money to pay for the food. That's where right. It's not it's a shortage of equity. It's not a shortage of food.
Right.
And so if we can, and it's much easier to be charitable to your neighbors than it is to be abstractly charitable to the world. Like, if we have a lot of land that we haven't cultivated, we're cultivating it now. And what we don't eat ourselves, we're donating to food banks. Or we're going to, when social quarantining is over, we're going to invite people to come and take care of beds in the garden if they want to grow some of their own stuff. We have neighbors who are in their 80s who are no longer able to farm their land. We're offering to put their whole garden under wheat or buckwheat or corn. It's like we're hearing so much about essential workers who are being put in harm's way by companies that, and it's like, why are they doing it? Well, if they're doing it, it's because they need the money. And they need the money because we live in a society in which our basic needs are not met on a local communal level. And so if every community could become food secure and energy secure, then we get to do the work that we want to do. And if someone wants me to work in an Amazon warehouse putting my life at risk, they're going to have to pay me a hell of a lot more money than $15 an hour. So, like, growing your own food is as revolutionary an act as becoming a vegan, I would argue.
That's a good question from Sarah. Is anyone helping? I mean, there are farmers we know that have gone from an animal farm to not slaughtering the animals anymore. Cows Come Home is one that comes to mind. That's in East Tennessee as one of the examples. But you also have, is it the one in Texas,
Rowdy
right?
Girl.
Rowdy Girl.
Yep. That's my girl. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. There's good comments. Fortunately, down here, we have a lot of the large farms donating their excess food to the food banks. It's so nice to see. So that's a good thing. That's awesome for Ramona. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, there's a lot of books and resources and YouTube on how to farm veganically, how to grow vegetables. It's, I mean, people know how to do this. One of the issues is it's hard to make money. Just like it's hard, the advertising for broccoli is less than the advertising for chocolate because chocolate is more profitable. So partly it's just going to be, individuals just growing their own local markets, returning to sane scales of production. So Elizabeth, to grow your own food in small spaces, there's look on YouTube for container gardening. So a container can be as small as a tiny little flower pot. It could be a 5-gallon bucket with some holes drilled in the sides and the bottom. It could be, burlap bags that you fill with dirt and reinforce with duct tape. It's just like, let's just get started. YouTube is our friend here. There's a ton of great gardening content.
You can also do a tower garden. That's something that's really cool that you can put in your house, especially a city apartment, is you can literally grow your fruits and veggies up in a tower. And I have friends that have them. It's absolutely incredible. And that's an option. And they've been one of our vendors, or you can just kind of go onto YouTube and go to, a Home Depot type store. I'm sure there's a way that they can. I do not have green thumbs. I'm not that person. I prefer to have somebody else grow my vegetables and my fruits. I have a mulberry tree, but I don't like mulberries. So let's throw Josh back in here. There he is. Let's get us back to our normal. Welcome back, Josh.
You know who loves mulberries?
Who?
Chickens.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So do my dogs.
So if you want to donate buckets to Piedmont Farm Sanctuary, they would love it.
They're mulberries. Mulberries are kind of like, they look like they're gonna be awesome, and then you eat one, and you're like,
It doesn't taste good at all. It's like, look how ripe this looks. And then you're like, it has no flavor. But there are people who love mulberries.
You guys have not tasted good mulberries. I will say that.
That's why a tree doesn't grow them, I guess. But I can tell you that the raccoons and the squirrels and the birds and the turtles and the groundhog that I have love the mulberry tree. And that's why we still have the mulberry tree.
The mulberry tree grows like crazy. My goodness.
It does. It actually is impacting the house, but because it feeds all those critters, I won't get rid of the tree.
Well, we have a trailer. I had one at the trailer park that was just a pain in the butt over the years. It was like constant. We wound up just cutting it down as the trails wind up bigger and bigger and bigger, and you got to remove it, get it out of the way.
Yeah. You know what else mulberry trees are really good for, and you can prune them back pretty severely because they're such prolific growers. You can give them like buzz cuts. And the branches are very straight and thin and strong. You can use that for fencing. You can use it for poles, for pole beans. It's a really useful plant from a lot of perspectives. That's
really good to know. Thank you. Because it is wild. It is growing all different ways. And Stephen just trimmed it yesterday, and I walked outside and I was like, "What are you doing? That's going to feed the critters." And he was like, "You have to do this." Yeah. And I was like, "But it's not ripe yet. The animals need to eat." It's like, that's where it's like, oh, the roots are killing like my house, but the animals need to eat.
Yeah, we're animals too. We get to factor ourselves in sometimes.
Exactly. So Josh brought something up before we went live, which I think is really important to talk about because it hasn't come up yet. I'd like you to talk about what you were saying about how your whole perspective on this, because it kind of fits in. We've gone from farming to doing that, to how this has impacted your thoughts and feelings about where you are in life on this planet.
Yeah, it's just really this whole experience of being quarantined, because I went through, you know, quarantine after I found out my friend was infected, and that was tough, and we couldn't get tested, and like you get worried and you go down all these rabbit holes on the internet and you get in Facebook fights with people that you like, and you do all of these things. And what I found, where I found the most peace in my life lately, has been the more simple things. And simple to me is, like we were talking, simple is dirt and grass and getting outside and, you know, maybe having a bird poop on you or something. Like, that's simple. Like, simple, just being part of this ether and being able to, like, just be a part of the physical planet that we're on, you know, just go and feel it, feel the dirt, feel the grass, hear the birds. And that would have driven me crazy as the person I was before. Like I thought I appreciated nature. I thought I wanted a relationship with nature. That's why I was in the woods all the time as a hunter or a fisherman, or, you know, but I feel like over the years, as I have removed things from my life, complexity, all of the drinking, all of the, you know, the elaborate animal-based meals and the preparation that it takes, the marinating and all of the stuff that I used to do. As I've removed more and more complexity, I feel more and more simplicity in my life makes me happy. More and more simple things make me happy. And I feel like that I've been accidentally on that path for 5-6 years now, because I wanted to be healthier. I wanted to be a more authentic version of myself, like Rich Roll would say. I wanted to be a more authentic version of that human being that has evolved to be. And simplicity has brought me there. It's simple to eat not just a vegan diet, but a whole food, plant-based diet is simple. That's like things that are laying around in nature. And so that sort of a relationship with simplicity, accidentally gained over the years, has really served me well in this time of what seems like world upside down turmoil the most, you know, and it has just made me feel even more positive and more reinforced when it comes to my decision of going vegan and chasing better health as a lifestyle for the rest of my life. Those things are really simple, really simple to achieve with simple inputs, you know, smiling, walking, laughing, loving, like these types of, we don't need so many of the things. What I'm learning is I don't need so many of the things I thought I needed. You know, I've cut my hair twice, my own hair. I cut it twice. I'm getting good at it. The poor girls that just for him haircut, they might be out. They might not get my $40 every 2 weeks anymore. I'm enjoying all of these things being accidentally. I would have never picked not getting a haircut, never. But spending more time with myself and the simple things, not only is it helping me calm down, but it's also helping me realize where all sorts of waste is in my life, in my normal life, you know? And so, yeah, while it has brought sadness and unbeautiful things, there's also silver linings, you know, that I've discerned in this time as well, and that affinity for the simple has been one of them, you know.
Yeah, I don't know what words come after that. That's it's pretty prolific, and the contrast to that. Let's go to contrast to that. We'll go to the contrast to that of protesters out there with signs that say, "I need a haircut."
Yeah.
Right? You just proved, Howie's like listening to you talking about cutting your hair and he's like, yeah, whatever. So he grew a goatee. That's what he has to, trim up every like few weeks now. But
These people are screaming like, you need a haircut and you don't have a job. What you mean you need a haircut? You need to learn how to chill and be still with less stuff right now, because none of us are going to work. None of us are being able to go and achieve and earn the way we want to.
Right. And Howie said it pretty well, being somewhat fortunate in some of our circumstances of being able to still have food delivered and put it on the table. I've lost pretty much all my income because of this virus. But when you work for yourself, you're almost kind of used to that. So it's not as scary when you are an employee for somebody else. So you just kind of go, let's pivot and figure out what we can do, because I don't want to work for somebody else.
Agreed. That's what I'm comfortable about. That's what I'm happy about, that my grandfather instilled in me. Is it doesn't matter. I don't need to work for a person per se. I know how to do things, and I'm willing to make that risk, to look stupid, to do the wrong thing, to say something that winds up not being accurate, but you stuck your face in there and you tried. And because I am that person, it doesn't matter if it all gets yanked away. If things, I had, for the first time, the month of April was packed with actually me being paid to go places, not just travel, but getting paid to go places. And they all went away. The first month ever that happened.
Gone.
Yeah. Right? But I'm still me. I still have my story. I still have the facts that a plant-based diet will save most Americans' lives that are in a bind right now. Right? I have all of these things still on my side. So in the moment, it might suck that all of that went away, all of this hard work and all of these things that have been building for years, really. They didn't really go anywhere. They're going to recoalesce at a different time.
Right. To go back to the simple things and for eating healthy and the whole food plant-based, I've had the pleasure of having dinner with the two of these gentlemen after the festival in August. And we went to a Mexican restaurant, and what was really cool is a Mexican restaurant is with the three of us and Milton Mills, and I don't even know who else. But what was really apparent was they asked a lot. The meal was, it's Mexican food. It's Dos Perros in Durham, and it's a delicious place for food. And they put the tortilla chips on the table, and we have guacamole. And next thing I know, they are ordering corn tortillas. Instead of eating the fried chips, they're just asking for corn tortillas that they can dip into the guacamole without the fried food, which makes for a much healthier version of a dip for guacamole. And it was delicious. So I haven't forgotten that, and I've done it since as an option, or eaten much less of the fried chips. Not that you shouldn't eat fried chips, and you can always splurge, blah, blah, blah. But following a whole food plant-based diet, because the Plant-Based Network is following this, that is a substitute when you go to a restaurant that has corn tortilla chips, is that you can just get the corn tortillas, heat it up, because don't eat them cold. It's really gross. Yeah, heat it up and cut up into triangles, and just dip that, or just rip it apart and dip it into the guacamole or salsa.
They brought entire, because they had, usually corn tortillas are significantly smaller than the flour tortillas. So a lot of times they'll just bring the whole corn tortilla out on a plate, which is what they did that night. It's just a stack of little corn tortillas. And again, at home, like, you just throw that in the oven, and now you can make a whole bag of chips that are baked in the oven. And even if you eat some regular chips later, you will have kicked that can down the road if you're still in the early stages of trying to learn. It doesn't matter that you ate the bad chips too, But just creating those habits and being able to start movement in that area is like, I know a way to get around that. That is no longer a thing for me, you know?
Right. And it was a choice. We were out at a restaurant, but you guys still made the choice to a healthier choice, which I would never have thought of, to do. So I was just eating dinner with a whole bunch of really, really healthy people who like, walk the walk, and that was like really cool for me to be sitting there with all of you. Everybody alternated, like everyone changed the menu to fit. Everyone kind of went with sides as opposed to meals to make it so that it fit like their more whole food, plant-based way of eating, as opposed to just eating a vegan meal at a restaurant that night.
Right.
So that was actually really cool.
Yeah, and it wasn't for me. And I think for Josh as well. It's not about like deprivation, like, oh, I have to give up this delicious stuff in order to be healthy. That was me just expanding my definition of now to include like 2 hours later when I don't want to be like bloated and farting, right? And miserable, like I don't want to have to suffer for my pleasure.
We have a really good question, another good question from Sarah. Do you think this time will help the 20-somethings? Have you seen any shift as in wanting to learn those skills? We were blessed to have elders who have been through famine or desperate times. I guess all three of us are maybe, old enough to get some things at the 20-somethings. I mean, there are some amazing 20-somethings out there. I know them. They help with my nonprofit.
I feel like we have a lot to learn from them. Yeah. I feel like the people that I know, and I have 2 kids who are in their early 20s, who are leading the way for me in terms of like, what is an essential life? What, how much do I want to plug into the current system versus create a life on my own terms? And they're, they and their friends, I think, are sort of taking to this with more energy than people my age.
I don't want to make fun about people your age. It's like, okay.
I mean, I'm Gen X. We're like the worst generation ever.
So
yeah, I think it's the baby boomers actually that get credit for that one. The worst generation ever at the moment. That's why we're here.
It's funny you asked that. Like, it's funny that she brought that up because I can't, this is just totally anecdotal. I know this is not a good sample size, but my godchild texted and he's been, my godchild is very similar to except not as fat as the before pictures of me, just a big fella. He's big guy, big, like he's like a bear, And so the fact that his parent, me, I have turned into this person it's just de facto, just a little bit of a shock. I was the parent that was teaching him how to eat, all the fried things, and I would get drunk in front of him and show him how much whiskey I could drink, and like that was me. And now I'm doing something completely different. And now he's in his 20s, and he's going to culinary school actually. And so we talk back and forth quite often, and he knows because cooking was such a big part of our family vibe. Like, I'm proud that he decided to go into culinary because I think that's a beautiful path. And so texting back and forth, and he's always asking me like about different podcasts to listen to, and he's not plant-based at all. I don't pressure them at all. They know me. They know what I'm about. And if they have questions, they can ask. But they still hunt and fish, and they still do the typical stuff, right? And so, but he's always asking little questions, and so he'll send me pictures of his plant-based meal. Hey, look, I just want you to know I'm trying this. I heard of a plant-based macaroni and cheese. You ever heard of that? And I'm like, yeah, so what I'm getting to is, so now they're kind of stuck. It's quarantine, and he's reading these audiobooks, and some of these things are reminding him of his parent. And parent means Godfather in Cajun French. If I'm losing people, I'm sorry. So and so he's reading about David Goggins, and David Goggins at Badwater, and he knows that I had just gone to Badwater last year and helped one of my friends finish. So he's texting me yesterday, actually, because he's stuck inside. He's like, man, I'm reading this Goggins book, man. This dude, he's went through some stuff, and I thought about y'all at Badwater. And I'm like, hey, you ever saw the video of me and Doodlebug, my little brother, running across the finish for my 100? And so I showed him the video, and I'm like, my whole point is we went down through this long thread of communication in this about this world. And I could see the gears turning for him, about this world that his parent belongs to now, me, right? And honestly don't know if that conversation, even though it was just one conversation, there's such an age gap. I don't know if if he would quite have been receptive as he was, if not for the situation that we find ourselves in right now,
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me hope because he's in culinary school. He's learning the things. I'm trying to preach to him, like from a business perspective, like, hey, I know you're going to be learning about fat is flavor in culinary school, and you're going to be learning all of the ways, but be alert, buddy. Understand what chronic disease is doing to our economy in this country, doing to us as a country fiscally. Understand the power of food, the powerful role that food is going to play in that, and how much opportunity that brings to food preparers. So don't just think of yourself as a fry cook, po' boy, constructor. You're a person, if you do it right, who have the power to help change the way, help change the planet, help change our country in a big way, And so, and it's like, you don't have to go through the alienation process because we already doing it here, buddy. You're here with your family. But yeah, no, those types of conversations and keep me hopeful. And Howard's kids too. Alon's a brilliant young man. I think that the world's in good hands, contrary to popular belief.
And Lana, thank you. You guys, she wrote, you guys are awesome. I've been attempting to get a handle on my food addiction for a long time. I'm in now wholeheartedly, feel amazing. So, I mean, yeah, that's fantastic. And, that gives us all our purpose for what we're doing with doing these lives and having people on. You have to what?
I see Thalia walking across the yard. I don't know how she got out the fence, but I have to go get her because
okay. We'll be here. Don't worry. I see failure.
Yeah. No, it's failure. Dog.
Okay. I was like, I said failure, and I was like, what an interesting name for a dog. Okay. Well, I'm sure he'll go. I'm glad he paid attention.
No, it's bad. It's bad form to let your dog get hit by a car because you're on a veg fest.
On a talk with anybody, actually.
On a webinar.
Yeah.
It's ironic here, so it's even worse. Like, take care of your beasts.
So this is for Josh too. Goggins' book was impactful. Nothing can stop you. Belief. Josh taught me that first, which is great. We can like totally praise Josh while he's going to save his dog, and we look at his empty living room. Right. So
Brenda is a hero nurse in New Jersey.
Oh, really? Thank you, awesome. Brenda, for everything that you're doing. Are you pro or against smoothies? I drink a smoothie every single day.
Yeah. I have anti-smoothie signs in my garage, but nowhere to protest now. So. No, I like smoothies.
They're everything I do. It's how I start my day pretty much every day. I don't take in any caffeine. I don't drink any soda. I drink seltzer and I drink my smoothie. My morning is not the same. My day is not the same if I don't drink my smoothie. So as what's in the smoothie, that's typically what the next question is I'm in a driveway, so my 3 dogs don't know I am home. That's funny. Yeah, Zoom doesn't. We don't have backgrounds here. I like the Zoom backgrounds too. But my smoothie has organic mango, frozen bananas, frozen cherries is my favorite, with flaxseed and organic peanut butter powder. And I put organic unsweetened vanilla almond milk and mixing that with, I got an almond cow. So I've been making cashew coconut milk unsweetened.
Ooh.
I put that
Do you
in
like
there.
that?
I
Do you
love
like
it.
the cow?
I'm absolutely loving it. The pulp is going into my smoothie. So the cashew coconut pulp that's left over that you need to do something with goes into the smoothie as well. A date, one single date goes in there. Oh, I think Doggy's back. And
Yeah.
that's my smoothie. Mix it up in the Vitamix, and it's delicious. I'll do strawberries. I'll do some mixed fruit sometimes. Right now, I just want to make sure I have frozen fruit in my house so I can have my smoothie. Which, first world problems, right? I have greens in my smoothies. I'm a baby. I'm actually a baby when it comes to things that I eat, and I do not like anything that tastes like dirt. So I'm not a raw vegetable person so much. So I do not like my smoothies to have greens in them. Spinach, maybe carrots at times, but I go more towards the sweet, healthier smoothies. I used to put silken tofu, but then I ran out, and I just didn't want to start putting it back in. I was like, look, I've turned my smoothies. I minimalized my smoothies based on what I can get from the delivered, because I won't leave the house because of the virus. So, Josh, we said some nice things about you while you were gone. So Good idea with the pulp from the milk making machine. Yes, you don't want to waste it. I did not know what to do with it, so
Yeah.
I just threw it back in.
I once I used to juice like carrots, and I once took all the pulp because there's so much, and I made a cake, and it was disgusting. It was inedible. So there's a tip for you.
I've been doing a lot of celery juice, and the pulp from that looks like useful, but I have like this looks like useful pulp. I bet it'd be good for something.
Yes, drive it to your mom and have her put it in a compost heap. Is my advice.
Oh gosh, I mean, did that too, Howie. Alanis did that too. So adding spinach and frozen cauliflower, try it. Can't taste it over the fruit. That's a good idea. I have frozen cauliflower in the house. I don't have frozen spinach, but it's not a bad idea. The spinach, I think, makes sense to put in there. Brenda says, my first time with Vitamix, I tried to make smoothie with, I put dates in. No one told me to take the red out. It was like bone shards.
I can beat that. One day I was making a smoothie, and the box of dates from Costco. It's like $10 for 2 pounds.
Yep.
I put in like 10 dates, and I threw out the pits, and then I realized I had done it backwards. I threw out the dates, and I put the pits in the Vitamix.
I bet that was rattly.
Like, what's that? Putting it on.
I was so relieved it wasn't like a spoon in there or something.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
I have tried to make my smoothies more and more like I found like, because I want my smoothie to be super calorically dilute, but I also, cause I want a big one. I don't want it to be like a liquefied banana split most of the time. I want it to be green and liquidy and tasty, and not necessarily tasty. I gotta say, my wife, she's like, oh my God, because I'll make her a smoothie and she could tell when it's runny and liquidy, and I'm like, look, this isn't for taste. This isn't a taste smoothie. This is good for you smoothie. And she's like, oh, she hates those smoothies, but I do those a lot. But I find 3 components that help those smoothies that are full of kale, which is really, really good, is lemon and ginger and mint, fresh mint. So put those 3 things in there with your kale, and that'll help knock the edge off of that kale. and help you drink it fast. But my God, it's so good for you to get it in there. Goodness gracious, it's good.
Apple's probably good for that too.
Apple's good too. It's just another source of calories in there. I can get away with 200 calories or less in a smoothie, and it can be giant, And I know what I'm doing, especially when I do one of those first thing in the morning when my liver has been fasting for double-digit hours, and the first thing I feed my body is like a big thing of green smoothie or celery juice, or my thing lately is just lemon water, where I cut the zest, just the zest, with a knife around of the whole lemon, and I throw that in my Vitamix and squeeze the lemon on top of the zest, and then just fill the rest with water and zizz it up so the zest turns completely liquefied. And that's what I've been drinking in the morning before I drink anything else. I drink a whole Vitamix pitcher full of that every single morning when I wake up. It's very, very pungent, lemoning taste, but my goodness, I love it.
It's actually really healthy for you to start with lemon water in the morning.
Yeah, I read this book, Liver Rescue. It's a medical medium book. I think he's got a whole series of them, but that was I've learned a lot about how to help my liver out, help it optimize it. That's all for my recovery.
Well, we've blown away an hour, and we've gone into over an hour and 10 minutes, and I think I could do this for hours with the two of you. But for the people who rewatch it back, they're gonna be like, "How long is this?"
We'll schedule an 8-hour live.
I think of the max I can do is 8 hours live in a row.
Karaoke and push.
All right, I know. Ellen Jones did like a plank. She did the plank contest like yesterday or something. Yeah.
We could do planks. That wouldn't extend the thing very much, I don't think. Ellen could go a lot longer than we can, I'm sure.
She can go like 9 minutes. Ellen can go like 9 minutes. But what do we do in those 9 minutes? She takes questions. Well, this has been incredible. If people want to find you or find out about you or follow you, please tell them how they can do. Oh, don't go, Lana says, don't go.
Then start asking questions, Lana. Put your money where your mouth is.
I'm up to 1 minute. Oh, planking. Oh, that's awesome. That feels really good.
Yeah, you need to do, Elizabeth. You should plank while you're playing cello. Then I'll be impressed.
Oh, look, Brenda said, thanks. You made my hospital time amazing. Usually stare at the wall. Love you all. That's very sweet.
I think that's our new tagline. Josh and Howie, better than staring at the wall.
Oh.
Let's market that. We can make a graphic.
Or maybe actually, Helene, it's you that made it. Otherwise, we're on a par with the wall. You're the missing ingredient here.
No worse than staring at a wall.
Oh my gosh, how do you lose 50 pounds before my birthday? Well, is your birthday tomorrow or is your birthday in December? Okay. So I think that's a general question. How do you lose 50 pounds? I think maybe before my birthday. I don't do as you do. Okay. I'm not quite sure what Lana is asking, but
that's a very it depends type question.
Yes, it is.
It depends on a lot, baby. It depends on if you only got 50 pounds or if you got 250 pounds. It depends a lot.
Yeah, she says September 5th is her birthday. That's really funny. Yeah, that's
yeah. Well, that's what, 5 months?
Yeah.
So that's 10 pounds a month. Well,
but what if she's only got 30 pounds to lose? It's going to take forever to lose 50 pounds. You know how some people are.
Look up Bonesaw. Look up Bonesaw on Amazon.
50 left. She was 174. So congratulations on the loss that you've already had. It looks like you're a runner because your profile picture has you in the woods looking like you're running. So and Josh knows all about running. So
love it.
Yeah. So the trick is caloric dilution.
Yeah.
So that you can feel full all the time, feel satisfied, and not take in too many calories.
And move. And she runs all day, so yeah.
And running is something you can still do now outside. I guess even in the city, you can still get outside and run.
I'm a birthday quarantine baby too, Elizabeth. I had my birthday in quarantine as well.
Yep. A lot of people are. I'm a December baby, so if we're in quarantine in December, something went really wrong.
My wife is December 3rd. She was like, because she was real sweet to me for my birthday. And she was like, you see, you forget mine all the time. I was like, yeah, but you have a December birthday. That's not fair because you got Christmas, you got birthday, Christmas. And I just mash them together into one in my brain. And I don't guess you do that.
Us December birthday babies are not a fan of, here's one big gift.
End of July babies who never had a party because no one was home. I want to join this pity party too.
Maybe Josh, maybe you can answer this. Running with a mask is challenging. I'm pretty sure that is. And then
no, I don't run with a mask. I don't need a mask while I'm running. Not where I'm running. I mean, if you were in New York City or something, it might be a different story. But I'm in the cane field behind my house over here. I'm not running with a mask.
Yeah. I would say, Elizabeth, remove the mask when you brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Pro tip.
Or drink water.
Drink. No mask for running. I think it depends on where you are. We went for a walk. We wore our masks. I posted a video on my Facebook page showing.
I would say yeah. I mean,
yeah. The way the virus or the germs can float in the air for the amount of time, if that's floating around Facebook. Japan did a whole thing about it, and it is really scary how long it could last in the air stagnant wise.
Did a really interesting video that really sort of takes away a lot of the, to me, it did anyway, a lot of the mystery, if that's the right word, around the mask wearing, right? And so it explained all sorts of different things about why we wear a mask, what it will do, what it won't do, why, and how big of a deal it is and all of that. I thought it was a really cool video. I just watched it yesterday.
Yeah. Brenda said something important. Masks protect others, which is very true.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Right. So what I would say for people who can't run without a mask, and running with a mask is very difficult. So this is something we teach at WellStart, which is one way to challenge your cardiovascular system is to run hard. So you have to breathe hard. Another is to practice slowing down your breathing while you walk, which is exactly the same sort of thing. So for example, let's say you're just doing a walk and you breathe in on one step and breathe out on the left, like breathe in with the right foot, breathe out with the left foot. And you do that for a while. And then you go to 2 steps per breath, and then 3 and 4, and just gradually ramp it up until you can do like 8 steps on an in breath, 8 steps on an out breath. You're breathing in slowly. You're not going while you're running, but you're still, the gap between what you need and the oxygen you need and the oxygen you're getting is challenging your cardiovascular system to get more efficient. So you can do that without running, and needing to gasp. So you can do that with a mask on.
Oh, that's awesome. You can get a Wii Fit. You can actually run in the house. I shared this with Ellen. I've never run in my life, and I ran with my Wii Fit for 3 minutes straight in my bedroom. I was keeping up with the other me, Yeah,
that sounds.
You fun, can. Running is another. Like Josh, you talk about simplicity.
Yeah.
Running is another one of those activities that is so simple. You could I could just do butt kickers, just river dance, right? I could just lift my foot up to where it's going to do that for 30 seconds, I'm pretty tired. I could then do high knees, right? I can do, if I do jumping jacks, these are like prison workouts. Like, I don't need more than, 3 feet by 4 feet to get, I can feel my heart rate going up a little bit now. So it's another one of these things like, what does running look like? Well, obviously, yes, I want to be outside in nature and trails, climbing mountains on beautiful roads. But what's the essence of it? It's just moving my body and my legs on the earth. So, again, when constraints generate creativity. So let's, we can feel sorry for ourselves when we're constrained, or, like most of the great stories of like startups that made it big, the constraints are the interesting part that led to the innovation that made them stand out. So we can apply that creativity to our own lives as we're under these constraints.
Yes, and everybody has time now, and that slowing down piece is really important. I learned to slow down when I moved to Northern California, and I'm from New York. So Cuomo has said some stuff about, I hope everybody is taking the time now to learn to slow down and to put your efforts towards things that you didn't put towards previously because you were too busy to do it. And now you can learn how to be less busy, still get everything you need done, spend the time with the people that you love and you care about, make the time for those people, which is incredibly important. I learned that by moving away from New York and refused to go back to it when I moved back, and then moved down here to a place that's kind of in between California, Northern California, and New York, and just said, making time, I've said it over and over, you have to make time for yourself every single day. And it's not worth it otherwise to me. Whether it's, like I've said, rolling around on the floor with my dogs for longer than I probably should have, but I did. And I still get what I need done, which is one of the perks of working for yourself, is I could be working at 2:00 in the morning if I decide to just do play things for 8 hours during the day. So, but that's the choices that I make, which is not a bad thing. But slowing down and doing the things that are healthy for you, come out of this not with the 15-pound quarantine weight that everyone jokes about right now. You can eat healthy. You can choose what you put into your body. You can choose to exercise. You have the time. Most of us have the time to do something, if you leave the house or not. Howie just gave you the example of what you can do in a prison space to be healthy. He gave us a visual example. So everybody can do that. Let me see. You guys have ruined every excuse I ever used. Your excuse, earworms, but I love you. Well, I'm glad we can help you, Brenda.
I loved how you talked about, you're playing with your dogs, because like our animals are our guides here, right? Like what should like, we're animals, right? But we've developed all these cultural artifacts above it. Like for me, this quarantine, and it's more in South Africa than back home, but in South Africa where there was really almost no internet, like I felt like I was in rehab, right? Like so many of our addictions are not available to us. Now, in quarantine, a lot of us can replace them with Netflix and Amazon Prime and porn and ordering junky food. And there's plenty of addictions available to us. It's not like we're handcuffed to a cell somewhere where we just have to sweat it out. But we have the opportunity to see what are the addictions, because they're much more stark now. And which ones do we want to let go of? It can be addicted to things, addicted to substances, addicted to activities, but it also be addicted to our idea of who we are and what's important to us. And so, your dog doesn't have any such addiction. Your dog wants to roll around and scratch its back when it wants to scratch. It wants to go out and poop when it wants to poop. Like the animals in our lives are teachers. And now we have the space to learn from them.
Please do. Right?
Movement and moving aggressively isn't inherently like fun. And matter of fact, nature had to attach food to the other end of that type of movement to get us to do it. And it's weird that like humans, we have circumvented that obstacle. And now we have to trick ourselves into moving, even though it doesn't get us food, you know? And so, and that's okay if we can understand those dynamics at play, and it makes sense why it's difficult. You know, that's all I'm trying. That it helps for me to make sense of things. That's all.
No, that's really fair. I think we have to. We broke the record at this point, and it's been absolutely fantastic. And we appreciate everybody who has participated, even the side conversation about gardening that happened while we were talking, because that did. We saw it. It wasn't something for us to comment on, but we saw it going on. So that's wonderful because turn your yards into gardens. It's not a bad thing to do. Make your HOAs, if you live in one, okay for you to do that, because you can feed yourselves and feed other people. And I actually really enjoy decaf coffee with almond milk, so I try to plan some routes around Starbucks. I think that's a lot to do with exercise, no matter what it is the carrot at the end of the exercise for some people, where it is like running by a Starbucks, or it is being able to have that cookie, no matter what it is. So,
or a carrot,
right? A carrot, or baked chips that you made.
Like you start where you are, and that's that is so much like gardening. It reminds me so much of grow where you are, oh goodness, I'm drawing a blank on his name. I met him at Asheville Veg Fest. Eugene Cook with grow where you are, right? Follow accounts like that. Learn if that's where your interest and your curiosity and an area of expertise that you don't really have yet seems to be. Make it happen on purpose by how you spend your day. Like Howie said, YouTube, Instagram has wonderful channels, places, people who are out there already doing these types of things that you can sort of learn through osmosis without having to like memorize a bulleted list,
Yeah, so that's fantastic. And watch our live videos with people. The next one is tomorrow with Dustin Harder, the vegan roadie, at 6 p.m. He'll be with us for about 30 minutes because he's really busy. He'll watch us and be like an hour. But so I'll keep doing these. I love them. It fulfills my public speaking without even having to stand up, which is awesome. And I'm tapping into my well of people I know through what I do with the Veg Fest world. And I'm very fortunate to have met Josh last summer, and Howie lives in my community. So very fortunate to know you both. And this has been just as fun as I anticipated it would be.
Yeah. You know what we haven't done though?
What?
We haven't answered your question of how you can follow us. Right? The little marketer devil on my shoulder goes, don't let this opportunity go away.
That's true. Please. I don't even know how. I guess we ran into questions. Don't go. The don't go brought us onto a 20-minute tangent. So yes, Howie, how can people follow you, find you, and everything that you do?
Yeah, so I have a podcast. It's somewhere between daily and weekly these days. It's called Plant Yourself. You can find it at plantyourself.com, and also Plant Yourself on Facebook. And Josh and I have a site, sicktofit.com, and we have a free book on Amazon called Sick to Fit, and that's a good place to start. And if you get the book and then sign up for a mailing list, we will tell you all about the other stuff we're doing. And Josh, you got your own stuff. You're into that Instagram thing.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I have an Instagram feed that I upload things to daily.
And what's it called?
It's just my name. Just find me at Josh LaJaunie on Instagram and come along for the ride.
Yeah, that was very sweet and simple, and hopefully you'll see these two live in person at events, because they were two that I wanted to have on my tour of festivals that I do. But we'll see what happens, and also we'll see if we can get Dr. Milton Mills as part of a talk just for him, and part of our reestablish or recreate our talk on racism, which was done in the Triangle Veg Fest this past August. It was fantastic, and it just having Milton as a part of it. He has a lot to say, and it would be a lot of fun and very a wealth of knowledge for everybody to, especially it goes right along with everything that's going on with society at the moment. And I don't want to end on a sour, sad note, but stay home, stay healthy, wash your hands, take it a step further, spray your packages, careful when you go outside, don't go out if you really don't have to. It's just, the longer we do this, the better off we'll all be in the long run. I've just lost a family member yesterday to the virus, which is it sucks. So it hit close enough to home that I don't want it to hit any closer. Let's put it that way.
Sorry.
So thank you. You wanted to say something, Howie?
I just want to urge people to not put date pits in their Vitamix.
And that's fantastic advice to end our talk, which has gone on for an hour and a half. So anyone who watches and you stuck with us for the whole time, and you watch us when it's not live anymore, thank you. We really appreciate it. We hope you got some laughs and giggles like we did. And I'm going to stop the live now.
Peace, guys.
Bye, everybody.